Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our final review of Violence Unimagined by Cannibal Corpse. So we've listened to this album non-stop for the entire past week, and I have to say that it was pretty enjoyable. I was honestly a little bit surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. Not to say I don't like Cannibal Corpse, I think they're pretty neat, especially their newer stuff. But there were some songs, honestly, that were just badass. The main three that I really liked were Murderous Rampage, Inhumane Harvest, and Follow the Blood. Those were the main three that were sticking out to me. Now, Murderous Rampage has that filthy, nasty, disgusting, insane riff that goes on. I think it's like closer to halfway through the song. I love it. Every single time. I'm looking forward to it every time that song comes on. It's just so good and I love it. Inhumane Harvest, not only does the general rhythm not conform to what you typically expect from this band, but there's one line Corpse Grinder does that I love when he says it, and it's so simple. It's when he says, "Everything must go." And it's so sick, you can hear it clearly, and I love it. And that's another thing about this album I kind of thought interesting, is that Corpse Grinder's voice is surprisingly clear as far as, brutal death and metal vocals go. Like, I found myself, being able to pick out what he's saying a lot more often than not. And I don't know if my ear's just improving for growls, or maybe he's just, that clear, which is really cool, because it is a bunch of growling.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I didn't really notice a huge difference with Corpse Grinder, but I did notice slight differences with the groove factor of this band, which is something we did touch on in the first impressions. You named 3 tracks. You said Murderous Rampage. What was the second one you listed?
Inhumane
Harvest, and then you said Follow the Blood. Okay, so I can agree with 2 out of 3 of those tracks as far as being highlights. Murderous Rampage, 6th song. Inhumane Harvest, also a 6th song, for the reasons you listed as well. But the next song that I liked, aside from Follow the Blood, which I thought was pretty bland, to be honest, was Surround, Kill, Devour. I thought that was a highlight track for me. Again, it's got a very forward momentum type of vibe to it, very pushing in the riffing, and it just slays. It's just it's probably the top song on the album for me. And it's cool that you mentioned the Corpse Grinder part, because this is another song, Ritual Annihilation. Near the end of that song, when he's screaming, "Arise, arise," that is sick. He it's an actual scream. It's not a growl scream, it's just like a higher pitched scream. It's really awesome. Throughout my time listening to this album, though, here's the thing. We're kind of in the same boat. We're Cannibal Corpse fans to a degree, but we both tend to favor their newer stuff, right? The most recent stuff in their long career. And this falls in with that kind of stuff. But for some reason, I wasn't gelling with it like I thought I was going to. Throughout the week, the more I listened to this album, I kept finding that it was feeling kind of bland. There was not a lot that really stood out to me to the point where I have a lot to really say about it other than the stuff I've just said. And I hate to say this, but I don't think I added a single song to my playlist. Now, I might go back and put Murderous Rampage in there because that's a 6th song. Inhumane Harvest might go on my playlist as well. But they weren't songs that I felt like I had to add to my playlist. I wasn't jumping to add them, which I do for a lot of songs, on other albums. And that's kind of detrimental, in my opinion. And I kind of feel like Cannibal Corpse is a band well established. They've been doing this for a long time. For this album, they did one of 2 things. They either played it really, really, really safe, or they rushed it and just got an album done and put it out. I don't feel passion in this album. And this is something I talk about on this channel sometimes. When I have an album like this, I feel like I have a good sense, and this is just me talking. Might not make any sense to people, okay? But I feel like I have a good sense for knowing when bands put their everything into an album and when bands just throw an album together. I'm not saying this was thrown together. It sounds good. They got the new guitar player. They, got some good lyrics. It sounds like good Cannibal Corpse, but there's no spark. right? There's nothing that ignites me when I'm listening to this, and that is unfortunately quite a downfall.
Well, one thing to, I guess, elaborate on, because you felt that Follow the Blood was bland, I didn't. I liked that it was slower pace. I love when he screams fire at will. I love that, and the guitar solo in that song was awesome, and how it bleeds back into the groove is sick. Those 3 songs I mentioned were the only songs I added to my playlist, and those, for me, were songs that I jumped at. Like, I listened to, I'm like, I need to add this is great, for those 3 songs. The rest of the songs were good. They didn't feel like they crossed that elite threshold like those 3 songs I mentioned, but they're not bad in any way. And I think it's a big upgrade from Red Before Black. Mm-hmm. And I listened to that album again, and I watched a review of that album from 2017, and I can tell that album a lot of the songs start with an interesting concept, and then it just kind of goes to just a typical death metal groove.
Yeah.
Whereas this album almost does the opposite, where some songs start out kind of like a generic kind of thing, and then they introduce a really interesting groove to it. And that was one thing very relevant throughout this entire album, is that there was really cool and interesting riffs and grooves, stuff I wasn't really expecting from this band. However, I'm questioning, those 3 songs are super standout. The rest of them, I can't really remember much off the top of my head in terms of all the highlights. But if I put on those tracks, they're enjoyable and I like them.
Yeah, I actually also went back and watched our Red Before Black review because I wanted to see what my thoughts were on that album, and kind of compare to this one. I think, based on what I said in that review, that I did like that album better than this one. And I do know for sure there was a couple tracks from that album. I don't remember the names exactly. I remember the one track that we did the video for,
Code of the Slashers.
Code of the Slashers. That's a sick song. I love that one. That definitely
was a good one. That was a good one.
But that was a song that it really stuck out like a sore thumb. Not a sore thumb. What is the opposite of a sore thumb? It stuck out like a shining star. Say it like that. This album didn't have something like that. So, I don't know. Follow the Blood. My notes on my first impressions was that I said it feels like it might be a good song to focus on because it has layers. So that was my first impression of Follow the Blood. Throughout the week, I did not find that was the case. You had a different opinion? That just goes to show you how people can hear the same song and feel differently about it. Even though we have a lot of similar opinions on other aspects of the album, we're not always going to agree on what songs are highlight songs or what songs are duds. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of these songs are kind of just run-of-the-mill, very basic. Necrogenic Resurrection, Condemnation Contagion, Ritual Annihilation, aside from that ending screaming part, Over Torture, Cerements of the Flayed, Slowly Sawn. Just going to mention something here about Slowly Sawn. Throughout the week, I was wondering what sawn meant. Slowly Sawn, Slowly Sawn. And I didn't want to look it up, I wanted to kind of figure it out.
Well, you'd think it would have been like sawed, but it was sawn. It's a different word.
Well, I don't think sawed is a word. I think that's the thing. Sawn is the past tense.
Proper.
I believe that's what it is. So I'm like, I realized this like a day ago, and I'm like listening to it in the car, and I'm like, slowly sawn. Does it mean like sawn in half? It has to be sawn in half.
Yeah.
Like, duh. I don't know.
It's weird.
I thought that was funny. For some reason, I was thinking of sewing, like sewn. And I'm like, that's what keeps coming to my head, like slowly sewn, like he's sewing flesh together, so making a fucking dead skin mask or some shit. But no, man, sawing somebody in half. Brutal as fuck.
As you'd expect.
There was also another song with a lyric I wanted to talk about, but I don't remember what it was, and I didn't make a fucking note about it. But I think it was in Murderous Rampage. But it was a lyric, I thought he was saying something the whole time. I thought he was saying stabbing with every heartbeat. Like you're stabbing somebody in the chest with every beat, but I looked up the lyrics and it was something else. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't stabbing with every beat or stomping with every beat. I don't remember what it was. But anyways, the lyrics are still cool. It's Cannibal Corpse. They write some pretty brutal shit.
Yeah.
What they're known for. Anyways, I think I'm done.
I guess I am too. So let's get to rating this album.
I'm going to give Violence Unimagined a pretty medium score because I think it's a pretty medium album. I'm going to give it a 5. I gave Red Before Black a 6.5, and I think that, yeah, this is just a step and a half below that album as far as quality goes, but it's not a bad album. I didn't skip any songs. I didn't hate listening to it. I just didn't find anything great or relevant to really talk about in this review or worth adding to my playlist. So a 5 for me.
Well, I am a little bit of the opposite direction. I thought this album was better than Red Before Black. I feel like it's a really strong album and it does something different for this band, which is really interesting and cool. However, I feel like it doesn't have enough to really push it past the threshold, but it's close. It's a solid, strong album. For me, I'll give it a 7, because it's a solid album that's worth listening to, but it only has a few of the really sparking moments, but the rest of the album is good, but doesn't reach there.
Fair enough.
Anyway, guys, that's all we got for Violence Unimagined. A 5 from Vile, a 7 from myself. Remember to comment, tell us in the comments below, what did you think of this album? It's been out for an entire week. Remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you are brand new. I'm TV Fish.
And I'm Vile Self.
And we'll see you guys later.